Well, folks. Good morning, good day, good evening, whatever time that you're watching this video. It's me again, your mathematics educator, Mr. Matleviani. Today we'll be focusing on the most important aspect of mathematics, which is financial mathematics. People, I'm going to make sure that we simplify this concept because most of the people, they find it difficult. I'm just wondering, why is it difficult? Because this is money. Everybody likes money. So let's just hop into it. But before we start, please, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe, share this video with your colleagues, your friends, your family members, whoever is going to find it beneficial. And yeah, greetings in mathematical spirit. Okay, let's hop into it. Okay, in financial mathematics, there are two entities that we actually deal with. Okay, the first entity, it's the lender. There must be a lender. A lender is lending the borrower. So when a lender is lending the borrower, then you call that a loan. Okay. So now it means sometimes the borrower will actually loan the money, or sometimes the person, if it's not the borrower, will actually invest. So in simple terms, we are talking about loans and investments. So it means the lender technically is investing in the borrower, because you see, the lender always asks questions. When you borrow, as a borrower, when you borrow the money, the lender will ask you if whether it's not supposed to ask you, it's supposed to determine whether it's lending you the money on a simple or compound interest. Okay, we're still going to be dealing with this word interest a lot. Okay, I will explain it in the next slide. But now, after the lender is asking himself whether he's going to loan you or lend you the money in a simple or compound interest, then in most of the cases, the borrower becomes confused. A borrower is somebody like you that is introduced to this concept. Okay, you'll ask yourself a question to say, compound, simple, what's the difference? That's the reason why we have this video, because I'm going to explain the difference between the two. But now, don't forget to watch other videos, because in this video I'll be dealing with simple interest, not compound interest. So in the next video I'll be tackling the compound interest. Okay, but now let's come back to school. Let's come back to school. If a lender is loaning or is lending the money, the borrower, then the lender will actually gain interest. Like I'm saying, this word interest is very, very, very crucial when you deal with financial mathematics. So I'll explain it. Now, the borrower will actually pay that interest, because how do you gain? Where does the lender gain the interest? The lender is gaining the interest from the borrower. Okay, but people, let's agree. Okay, or let's agree to say, when somebody talks about interest, he's talking about the money that is going to be lost by the borrower, because the borrower is going to lose money to the lender, but the very same money that is lost is going to be gained by what? By the lender. So the money gained, or the money paid, the money gained by the lender on top of what the lender has loaned the borrower, that will be an interest. And the money that the borrower is going to pay on top of the money that the borrower has borrowed from the lender, that is also the interest. So it means the money gained or the money paid, the money gained, the money lost. That is what you will call the interest. Okay. Now let's look at it into. Let me break it down to you in simpler terms. Okay. What is interest? You see, when somebody talks about interest, people is actually earned by the lender, like I was indicating. This is your lender is going to earn that interest, or the interest is paid by the borrower. All right. And when a borrower borrows money, the borrower is supposed to pay back the borrowed money plus interest. Okay. So when you borrow money, you have to pay an amount which will also include the interest. Okay, the money that you are losing as a borrower. Okay, the money that the lender is gaining from you as a borrower over a particular period of time. So time is also important, the period, to say how long are you going to loan the money, how long are you requesting me to lend you the money. That is important. Okay, another thing that we should actually put into consideration is that the cost of borrowing money is the interest you have to pay back on the loan. Okay, so it means the borrower is actually on the disadvantaged side, because that is going to cost you. It's going to cost you the additional money, the money that you're going to pay on top of what you've actually borrowed. Okay, so the cost of borrowing money is the interest that you have to pay back on the loan. Another thing that is important is the benefit of investing, because sometimes you don't borrow, sometimes you have money, but you want this money to generate interest. Okay, so it means you'll be investing. So when you invest, you gain interest. But when you borrow, then you lose that particular interest. Okay. So when you invest, like for an example, if you have 10 Rand and then you want to save it for 6 years, and then after 6 years you want to withdraw it. So it means the bank is you are supposed to gain interest on top of that. You can't invest 10 Rand and then after 5 years it's still 10 Rand. It's not like that. Okay. So the benefit of investing money is the interest which you are going to earn on the amount that you have actually invested. So let's agree to say in financial mathematics, you talk about the lender, who is the investor, and the borrower. Okay, so the borrower will actually lose the money to the lender. But when you are the investor, in this case, when you invest, you expect to gain interest. You expect to earn interest on the amount that you have actually invested. All right. Another thing that is very important is when a person saves money in a bank account, like you normally do, or you will do in future when you're working, or if you are working, you are doing it now. Okay. So when a person saves money in a bank, he or she earns interest over a particular period of time that the money is actually saved or it is invested, because when you invest, you are saving. Okay. But the interest that you're going to earn will depend, or it is guided by the interest rate, the rate at which the additional money is added on your amount. Okay, I think you understand. I believe you understand what I'm saying now here. Okay, so under general, you invest the money so that you gain the interest, or you borrow the money so that you pay back the money with interest. So interest, in simple terms, people, let's agree to say it is the money that is gained by the investor. If you are the investor, you gain that. And then the interest is the money that is paid by the borrower. Okay. Normally when you borrow, it means you are loaning. So the investor, the lender is loaning you the money. All right. So we are dealing with two things: loan, investment. An investment is related to saving, because when you invest, you are saving. Okay. When you loan, you borrow, just like that. Okay. Now, take it down further. Let's look at simple interest. Okay. Simple interest is calculated on the initial or principal amount that is invested or borrowed. Maybe let me explain this further to say, if for an example, we are actually saying we are adding the rate at which we're going to add interest on top of the money that you are actually saving. Let's say you are saving 10 Rand, and then we say the interest rate is 1 Rand every year. it means after the first year you will be having 10 rand plus 1 rand. So it means the 1 rand was calculated on 10 rand. Then the 1 rand is going to remain the same. So it means the initial or principal amount is the one that will actually tell us how much are we going to add. The interest is actually based on that. So if it is 1 rand, it's going to be 1 rand every year. So it means after the first year, it will be 1 rand 10 rand plus 1 rand, which will be 11 rand. Okay. After the second year, it will be 11 rand plus 1 rand. So it will be uniform. But if we were talking about compound interest, which is something that I'm still going to talk about in the next video, the interest is not calculated on the initial or the principal, but it is calculated on the balance. So it means if in this instance you have 10 rand and then we add 1 rand, after 1 year you have 11 rand. Then after the second year, we will actually get the 10% of the 11 rand. No longer it will no longer be based on the initial amount. It will be based on the current amount that you are having at that time. All right. So simple interest, people, is calculated on that. That is why it is considered to be simple. Now, interest received or charged. Okay, it is received by the lender or it is charged to the borrower. For each period will always be the same when we talk about simple interest. And simple interest give a linear growth of the total amount. It has to be linear because it is increasing with the same way. You know, the rate is constant. If it is 1 rand, it is 1 rand, 1 rand, 1 rand, so it's the same. So it will actually give you a graph of this nature. If this was your amount, as number of years are increasing, the amount is also increasing. But the amount is increasing with the same interest rate. It is increasing at the same rate. Okay, so it will give you a linear growth or a straight line growth. Okay. Now you should note something. You should note that in financial mathematics you will use a calculator for your calculations. Okay, so we can't run away from this. You are like a soldier. You can't go to war without weapons. You should be having hand grenades. You should be having bullets. You should be having. So this is your gun. This is what you use in financial mathematics. So a learner without a calculator but doing financial mathematics is like I don't know. It's like what? It's like a bird without feathers and wings. Okay, you can't do a financial mathematics with the calculator. Therefore, you should become a friend of your calculator, and please be acquainted with your calculator, because when you write at the final examination, you mustn't be a stranger to your calculator. You must be a friend to your calculator. Okay, but the reason why you are using a calculator is because we want to make calculations very simple. Okay, so in financial mathematics, you never round off until the final. Okay. So this will make your calculations to be more accurate. It will make your calculations to be more accurate. All right. Now, let's moving forward. Let's look simple interest formula, because in mathematics we actually use formulae to simplify calculations. So the same thing apply. We have a simple interest formula that we will be using. Okay. So the important thing is, if this is our interest formula, we need to understand what does the A stand for, what does the P, so on and so on, so that we can actually use it. Unless we know those things, unless we know the dynamics of each parameter in this equation, then we're going to have a problem. Now let's start with the A. A will give you the total amount. This is the total amount that the lender is lending you. Okay. No, it's the total amount that the lender is going to gain with interest. Ne? The total amount that the lender is going to gain with interest from you. Or it is the total amount that you as the borrower is going to pay with interest. Okay, so it is accumulated amount. It is accumulated by the lender, or it is accumulated by the investor. Okay, so this is the total amount. Then this one, P, is actually the principal amount, the initial amount. So the initial, it means the money that we start with. Okay, so if it is an investment, how much am I starting to invest with? Okay, if I'm starting with 10 rand, then the P will be 10 rand. If I'm borrowing 10 rand, then the P will be 10 rand. So this is the initial amount, the money that you start an investment or a loan with. Okay, now this part inside the bracket is actually the interest, but the interest is supposed to be charged over a particular period of time. Okay, so the I is the interest rate, the rate at which we're going to charge the interest. And people, it must always be written as a decimal to make calculations simple. And then your n in this case, as long as it is simple interest, it represents the period in years. So it is your time in years for simple interest. So it means if your n is given in months, then you must convert it to years, which is something that we will see in the example that I will be dealing with. Okay. Let's move forward. Break it down even further. You see, you will sometimes come across questions that involve what we call the hire purchase agreement. So there is a thin line. Actually, there is no line between hire purchase agreement and simple interest, because when you deal with a hire purchase agreement, you are actually agreeing to buy a particular item. This item might be a computer, it might be a bed, it might be a TV set, it might be a bicycle, it might be a phone. Okay, you buy this particular item at a certain interest rate. You see, so the shop, which is the lender, must always charge the interest rate. There is no way in which you cannot be charged the interest rate when you are actually borrowing. When you borrow, you must be charged. There must be additional amount that you are going to pay. Okay, when you invest, there must be additional amount that you're going to gain. All right. So in hire purchase agreement, the person agrees to buy. So it's like you are agreeing to purchase. You are agreeing to purchase by hiring. That's simple. You see, you are saying, I want to purchase this, but in the meantime, I'll hire it. Okay. When you hire something, it means it's not yet yours. You understand? But when you hire it, it means it's in your possession. Okay. You are the one who is going to be using that. Therefore, we must have an agreement to say what is going to happen. What is going to happen until you finish paying. So that is the hiring part of it. So you are purchasing by hiring, but there must be an agreement. That is why we call it a hire purchase agreement. So hire purchase agreements are normally for small items. You understand? Like I was indicating the examples of bicycles, television set, beds, so on and so on. Okay. Now, such interest that we are talking about in hire purchase agreement is stated, it's paid over a particular period of time. It is paid over a stated period of time, and the customer will usually be expected to pay a deposit. That's the unique part of hire purchase agreement. Okay, you are supposed to pay a particular deposit, but sometimes the lender or the shop might say, take it without a deposit. Okay. Yeah, but with hire purchase agreements, you are expected to pay a particular deposit. Is just a small amount that you are securing. You are securing the deal. You understand? There's a particular small amount to say, before we give you this, at least pay this much. You understand? To secure that particular loan, to show that you are serious about buying the item. Okay. Note, it is important to know that hire purchase agreements are always calculated on simple interest. So it means if a question comes and is talking about hire purchase agreement, by default you know the interest is going to be simple. So we're going to be using the simple interest. Therefore, it means you have to use the simple interest formula. Okay. Now, let's take an example for us to sink this concept in our minds. Let's take an example for us to understand it better. Okay. I want to come up with a very practical example. Very everyday life situation example. Okay. This is an example that integrates the simple interest on hire purchase agreement, because I said there is a thin line. You understand? Actually, there is no line. Okay, between hire purchase agreement and simple interest. When you purchase by hiring, you agree, but the interest will be calculated using simple interest. It just be a simple interest. And remember, simple interest, it means the interest is calculated based on the principal amount, and it will be the same. It will be constant throughout. That is why it is giving us a linear growth. All right. Now, suppose there is a shop, you want to buy a bicycle. Okay. And then you see these culture cycles on a particular website, www.culturecycles.co.za. And then here is the information about the bicycle. They say you can actually purchase this bicycle cash. If it says purchase price, it means it's cash. If you want to buy it cash, then you will pay 1,999. But if you don't want to buy it cash, you can actually use what? You can actually purchase it by hiring, but we must have an agreement. You understand? What is our agreement? The agreement is you must pay a deposit of 450. And how long are you going to pay that? That is the period that you're going to take to pay this bicycle. You have to pay it for 24 months. At which interest rate? It must be a simple interest. Why is it a simple interest? Because it's hire purchase, okay, agreement. So it will be at 25%. Now let's look at the questions that come in here, okay. The advert alongside, which is this one, appeared on this website, the www.culturecycles.co.za, on a hire purchase agreement law. So by default, when you say hire purchase, you already know that you are dealing with a simple interest, okay. Answer the following questions based on the advert. 1, calculate the monthly amount that one has to budget in order to pay for this particular bicycle. So if you were to buy this bicycle, how much are you supposed to pay monthly given this information? All right, that is what we're going to calculate. Secondly, we need to understand how much interest are you going to pay on top of the total amount. How much interest is the shop, the Culture Cycles, going to gain from you? Okay, you are going to lose this interest, but Culture Cycles are going to gain that. So we want to know how much money are they going to gain from you if you don't buy it cash. Okay, now let's analyze everything. Okay, when you say PA, you are actually saying per year or yearly. So it means it is 25% per year. So it means we add the interest every year, just like that. Okay, that is why it says per annum. So per annum means per year, or it means on a yearly basis. All right. Now we must also look at the question. We look at the hire purchase agreement. Immediately when we see the hire purchase agreement, we remember it means we're going to use this formula for simple interest, because hire purchase agreements are calculated based on simple interest. Okay. Now another important aspect of our question is monthly amount. Okay, this is what we're going to calculate. And then we also have to calculate how much interest. But let's review. Let us remind ourselves to say, by the way, interest is actually the money that is going to be gained by Culture Cycles, or it is going to be lost by you as a person who's purchasing, okay, by hiring. But you're going to have an agreement with what? Culture Cycles, okay. So the agreement will be based on all this information: the deposit, the period, and the interest rate. Okay. So now we are getting into mathematics. You are a mathematician. This is a very, very interesting topic, people. Let's now answer the questions. I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to take you step by step. Okay. I'm not going to leave you like hanging anywhere, because my intention is to make sure that the content in mathematics is explained in a simplified fashion. Okay. Right. Still looking at the same example. We are expected to calculate the monthly amount that one has to budget for in order to pay for the bicycle. So in your solution, you'll actually say, all right, the amount that I am actually loaning, the loan amount, this is the amount that I'm owing without interest. It cannot be 1,999 because I'm going to pay a deposit. So the deposit is taken out from the purchase price, okay, from the cash price. So from 1,999, you have to subtract 450, okay. So it means your loan amount will actually be 1,549. So this is the amount that you are actually owing to Culture Cycles before interest. They have not yet added anything. Okay. Now we also need to know this other variable. You say, okay, my principal amount in this case, the one that I'm starting with, the initial amount is 1,549. Why is it 1,549? Because I've already paid 450. Okay. So the interest rate must be written as a decimal. When you say 25%, people remember, percentage means divided by 100. So when you say 25%, it is not 25, it's 25 divided by 100. Therefore, your I is 25 divided by 100, which will be 0.25. So you write it in decimal form for simplification of calculations. Okay. So our N, we're going to pay for 24 months. And then I've indicated in the beginning to say the N that we see in the formula will actually represent number of years. So it means we must convert number of months to years. And the question is, how do I convert months to years? Very simple. Because you ask yourself a question, how many months are there in 1 year? And there are 12. Therefore, whatever you get here, you will always divide by 12. Okay, if you convert it to 2 years. So 24 divided by 12 is 2 years. So it means somebody that is paying a particular amount for 24 months is the same as somebody that is paying that for 2 years. And then what do we want? We want the total amount. Okay, we want the total amount that Culture Cycles is going to get. Okay, the total amount that you're going to pay the Culture Cycles with interest. Okay, because UA is the total amount with interest. The loan amount is the amount that you are starting with without interest. Okay. Now, you will write down the formula to say, okay, A is equals to P into 1 plus IN. We are using this formula because this is simple interest. You know, we know it is simple interest because we are talking about hire purchase agreement. Okay. Now, what is left for you is just to substitute and play your maths. Okay. So you substitute here, your P is 1,549, and then 1 plus your I is 0.25 multiplied by 2. If you punch this correctly in your calculator, in the correct mode, then it will give you a total of 2,323 rand 50 cents. So this is the amount owed. This is the amount that we are owing Culture Cycles. Okay, this is the total amount that is going to be paid in 24 months. The total amount that is going to be paid in 2 years. By who? By the borrower. This is the total amount that is going to be gained by what? By Culture Cycles after 2 years. All right. So we want to calculate the monthly installment. We know we are going to pay for 24 months, and then the total amount is 2,320 rand 50 cents. Therefore, getting the monthly amount or the monthly installment is going to be simple because we just take the total and then we divide it by total number of months, which will be 2,320 rand 50 cents divided by 24, which will give you 193 rand 63 cents. So what are we saying? We are saying if we are going to purchase this bicycle on hire purchase agreement at an interest rate of 25% per annum per year, simple interest, for 24 months or 2 months, having to pay a deposit of 450, then it means for the next 24 months, you will be paying 193 rand 63 cents. Okay? So if you pay 193 rand 63 cents for 2 years, then at the end of 2 years, you would have paid 2,323 rand 50 cents. Okay? And the 2,323 rand 50 cents is the total amount of the bicycle plus interest, you see? Because if you check here, the cash price, somebody who buys it cash will actually save because it's 1,999. But because you are agreeing on purchasing it on hire purchase agreement, then it means you are going to add additional amount. So that additional amount is actually the interest, which is our next, the next question, you see. So it is always advisable to buy things cash, but if you don't have cash, then you are forced to buy on hire purchase agreement. But on hire purchase agreement, it means you're going to lose interest or you're going to pay interest. You're going to pay back interest. You pay the total amount plus the interest. Okay. The second question. In the second question, it says how much interest does one have to pay? Okay. You are paying that. You are paying that as a borrower. Okay. But the very same interest that we're talking about is the interest that is going to be gained by Culture Cycles on top of the 1,999. Okay. Now in your solution, you will indicate to say, okay, our loan amount, which was the initial amount, after we paid the deposit is 1,549. And then we know very well that the total amount plus interest, because this was the amount without interest, and the amount with interest, it will actually be 2,320 rand 50 cents. Okay. Now it means the interest that we are going to pay on top of what we loaned, isn't it? On top of the initial amount that we were actually owing. It will actually be the total amount with interest minus the total amount without interest. Therefore, it means I will be 2,320 rand 50 cents minus 1,549, which will actually give you 774 rand 50 cents. Okay, so it means you are actually paying 774 74 rand 50 cent additional or on top of the 1,549 rand. Okay, which will total in what? In 2,323 rand 50 cent. Okay, so this is the amount that is going to be gained by culture cycles. Okay, of what? On top of the 1,999. Okay, and remember you have already paid 450. Okay, for that. So this is the amount that is going to be gained by the culture cycles, but this is the amount that is going to be paid by you, or this is the amount that is going to be lost by you in the process. Okay, so it's very simple. Okay, I hope you understand. And this will mark the end of this particular video. Ladies and gentlemen, please share, like, and subscribe. And please don't forget to hit the notification button so that you are notified of my future videos, so that you don't miss out. Okay, I'll leave the links below for similar videos or other videos that I've already uploaded. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you very much, and your support, your comments, and everything are always welcome. The intention is to educate a black child. The intention is to educate the nation. Thank you for watching, and God bless.